Most of my work as Secretary-Treasurer has been focused on working with local leaders to train and support them. After all, at the core of our union's strength is the work conducted at the grassroots level by our members. Last summer, I kicked off the year with local presidents and then spent a great deal of time following up from my exciting time in Wisconsin's Northwoods to checking in back in my hometown district of Racine, where I'm on leave from my position as a physical education teacher. Treasurer's training has been a big part of my work too, and I'll be talking to you all later about the proposed budget.
Much of my work in the past year has been centered on coalitions and building partnerships. The work our union members did around healthcare was phenomenal, and there was also movement in the area of family engagement in schools. I'm happy to announce that May 22nd, activists in Wisconsin are holding a summit to develop policy around improving family community school engagement. The NEA, WEAC, DPI, and the Governor's Office are all part of this important step forward.
Through the work we've done, it's clear that at the core of it all, the work you do really makes a difference. Over the last year, our travels have led us to many destinations, each with a unique story. The stories are important pages of our union's history. They're all about members taking small steps to make a big difference. We'd like to share a small sample of the extraordinary efforts our members make, starting with a small idea and building momentum until the result becomes larger than any one person. This is Nick Nisvachel, a teacher at Preble High School in Green Bay. He formed a group called Sting Cancer with 14 of his students to help cancer victims. Now, that group includes more than 300 people, has helped more than 250 families, and he's inspiring other educators across the state to adopt the model. What started as a grassroots effort led the state of Wisconsin to designate May 13th as Sting Cancer Day.
I believe that when I started Sting Cancer, or I hoped it, definitely dreamed it, but I definitely think one person can make a difference. The key thing is not to let the setbacks take you over. You know, there's going to be a lot of peaks and valleys, and there's going to be a lot of struggles, but if you really, really are passionate and committed to something, you can make it happen. And I think that goes for anything. In any realm of society, if you want something bad enough, you just have to kind of dig your feet in and go after it.
All over the state, there are stories like Nick's, dedicated members who take time for one individual action that grows into something bigger. People like Ron Lunford, a paraprofessional from Milwaukee, who started a theater program for students with special needs. Now that's truly inspiring.
Educators are dedicated to their schools. Think about Chris Hambuck-Boyle, the Eau Claire teacher who joined other teachers, support staff, school district administration, and community members for an hour after work during the last 10 days of the school year, writing anecdotes of what they saw in the classroom to highlight the need for school funding reform.
Or how about the up-and-coming teachers of tomorrow who make up the student WEA? Each spring, scores of student WEA members converge on a school district to lend a hand rehabbing school buildings. The fresh coats of paint, minor repair jobs, and overall facelift not only rejuvenate the students when they return to class after the volunteers have left, but also the staff.
Outreach to Teach is always a huge hit every year that you never have to worry about getting enough volunteers. But it's been awesome to come now and see everyone get put together, so it's awesome.
It is awesome when our members come together to support what's right. That includes what's right when it comes to advocating for community investments in our schools, like many of our local associations have done in the past few months. Many members of our union are also doing their part to further a quality agenda for our union, focusing on making our profession the best it can be. Like teacher Sarah Rose Thomas, an award-winning poet, and an English teacher in Coleman, who uses multimedia and current pop songs to highlight the medium of poetry, from John Updike to the Black Eyed Peas.
Being able to relate to other folks is beneficial just in general, but if you can say, all right, we're going to read these words, and we're going to try to make some kind of an inference, or we're going to try to understand what they mean, and then to get them to actually feel that, you're trying to get them to feel personally, what we're teaching. And for anybody to take education right within themselves like that, it kind of instills that love of learning that we've been trying so hard to do. And I think poetry is a pretty good vehicle for that instilling that love of learning.
Did you know the small community of Coleman produced more poetry contest winners in 2009 than any other school district in the state?
That's something. And WCTC member Tammy Rail, who took the lead at Black Hawk Technical College in Janesville to organize periodic lunches between the leadership of the union and the college's administration to discuss hot topics so they don't turn into grievances. Our technical college employees are stepping up more than ever as displaced workers head back to school in record numbers. Speaking of a small step making a big difference, here's Veronica Ellingson, a Hudson teacher who is successful in bringing forward and securing passage of an RA new business item to direct funding and attention to PDP support for educators. Her grassroots efforts have resulted in robust progress in this area, as well as increasing supports for professional development.
Like the Useful initiative in Southeast Wisconsin.
Well, the initials USEFUL stand for
United Southeast Educators for Understanding Licensure and Learning.
So it is a licensing component, but it also is a learning opportunity for our members in regard to other information that would be helpful to them.
We're finishing our third year of doing it, and we really, I think, have been very successful. We've had darn few workshops that have not been full to the brim.
And sometimes we've had to turn them away, and sometimes we've had waiting lists, and we've even had to put on additional meeting times so that we could meet the needs of all of our teachers who were interested in this information.
I think ideally we'll continue to do what we're doing, but build our capacity of reviewers and coaches so that we can service more members, because we're only going to get more members coming to us.
Lynn Johnson of Stoughton took a small step when she started providing workshops on response to intervention for our union. The results have been great. Her colleagues have benefited, and so have the students in her district.
And here in Green Bay, Dave Harswick and the Green Bay Education Association made a real push for the expansion of the Emerging Voices program. And the popularity of the union training for new leaders has exploded in the past year.
Of course, there are memorable events that simply celebrate our passion as educators, such as Read Across America.
Guy, you certainly haven't been shy about getting into that catsuit every year.
Well, I guess it falls under the other duties as assigned. Thanks, Mary. Well, we did it, and you know what? It was well worth it.
Of course, some of our steps occurred at the state and national level, as our members proved that when individuals join voices for change, much can be accomplished.
Healthcare reform is another area in which our members have raised their voices and taken steps in the right direction. And it sure didn't happen overnight. Starting years ago, NEA directors Bob Fulmer, Paul Hamilton, and Glenn Schmidt pushed NEA to support healthcare reform. The cause was continued by current NEA directors and member activists like Nan Weimer-Colleen and Jane Mandley, who organized members to make phone calls and write letters. Congress listened to our members and our coalition allies, and historic healthcare reform legislation was passed that will make life better for our members and our students.
And school funding reform continues to be our top priority. As recent as last week, the Moving Education Forward campaign took hold in many communities throughout Wisconsin. Some locals, such as Onalaska, set up a booth at an art fair to talk about reform. In Watertown on Friday, educators wore red and sported their school funding reform buttons. From New London to Clintonville, teachers and support staff are taking the steps they can to build grassroots momentum. There are legislative victories as well that we've accomplished in this past year.
Efforts that started with one person's great idea, like Ann Knapp's 2007 RA new business item for mandatory 5-year-old kindergarten. Ann's idea made its way to the state level and was enthusiastically signed into law by the governor. Of course, while WEAC members have been going strong all year long, they're not going to stop. Our union is continuing to position itself for the new challenges we face. And together, I know, we'll continue to make history.